There's this idea floating around in modern culture that being soft is the same as being good. That if you're agreeable, passive, or harmless, then you're somehow virtuous by default. But that's not virtue. That's just weakness disguised as manners. And eventually, weakness always rots. It curdles into resentment, envy, and quiet rage. Because the man who cannot say no, the man who cannot fight, the man who cannot protect, he knows on some deep, shameful level that he is not whole. You've probably seen it in your own life. The man who avoids conflict, who always folds, who lets life happen to him. At first, he seems easygoing, maybe even kind. But give it time and you'll notice something else. His smile is tight, his posture closed, his eyes are tired. He's polite but not present, kind but not clear. He leaks frustration in small passive-aggressive ways. He doesn't speak up, not because he's at peace, but because he's afraid. And if that man stays weak long enough, he doesn't just suffer, he starts to make others suffer too. We like to believe that weakness is some kind of neutral state, that it's safer or even more moral to be harmless. But Jung would tell you that the shadow doesn't disappear just because you repress it. And Peterson would say, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that part of himself under control. So in other words, you're not supposed to be nice because you can't fight. You're supposed to be kind because you can, but choose not to. Real virtue requires power, and if you haven't faced your own capacity for force, for boundary, for destruction, then your kindness isn't noble, it's just fear disguised. Weakness doesn't announce itself as a dramatic failure. It shows up quietly, through compromise, delay, and avoidance. You skip the hard conversation. You let someone cross a boundary. You say yes when your gut screamed no. At first, it looks like being polite, flexible, nice. But over time, something starts to decay beneath the surface. Because every time you betray your own boundaries to keep the peace, you don't just lose ground in the world, you lose a piece of yourself. And the world can smell it. People might not say anything, but they sense the passivity. They sense that you're not fully there, that you're playing small, hiding something. And worst of all, you know it too. Deep down, the psyche remembers every time you refuse the call to act. And that weight, it doesn't go away. It just sinks further. Eventually, a fracture forms between who you appear to be and who you are beneath all the restraint. You become a man split in two. One part smiling, nice, and inoffensive. The other, bitter, repressed, and silently boiling. And here's the paradox. The longer you stay weak to avoid becoming dangerous, the more likely it is that your danger will come out sideways. Not as strength, but as sarcasm, as spite, as cowardice dressed in moral certainty. That's the rot of weakness. It's not the absence of violence, it's the absence of integration. Jung wrote that the shadow is everything we refuse to see in ourselves, but refusing to see it doesn't make it disappear. It just makes it act without your permission. The man who prides himself on being harmless often believes he's above violence. That because he avoids conflict, he's morally superior. But this is a lie, crafted by fear and reinforced by culture. Because weakness isn't moral, it's unconsciousness. It's the refusal to see that you are capable of hurting others, especially when you don't know what you're doing. And the bitter truth is this: the weak man does hurt people, not with fists, not with explosions, but with indecision, with silence, with the festering resentment of a life unlived. He becomes the passive father who checks out, the insecure partner who guilt trips instead of setting boundaries, the fragile friend who can't hold tension, so he sabotages what he can't control. And all the while, he tells himself he's being nice, but what he's really doing is leaking the shadow in 1,000 tiny ways that erode trust, love, and respect. This is what Peterson meant when he said, "You must become dangerous, not so you can dominate others, but so you can face that side of yourself consciously, because until you do, the parts of you that could protect, defend, or act with force will remain buried, and anything buried for too long turns toxic." Before you can be kind, you must be dangerous, because kindness without power is not compassion, it's compliance. This is where myth speaks louder than modern slogans. Take Hercules, not as the Disney character, but the raw ancient figure as an example. A demigod, born of both man and God, plagued by rage, driven by trials. He wasn't gentle by nature, he was not polite. He was strong, violent, capable of immense destruction, and yet his story isn't one of unchecked force. It's the story of a man learning to master it. Each of the 12 labors that he went through wasn't just a heroic task. They were symbols of internal taming. The slaying of the Nemean lion, facing raw aggression. The capture of the Erymanthian boar, confronting wild and uncontrollable instinct. Even the descent into the underworld was a confrontation with death itself, with the shadow. And when Hercules emerged, he wasn't just stronger, he was integrated. He had seen his rage, survived it, and brought it under control. And only then could he offer his strength in service of something greater. This is the masculine journey, at least the healthy one. It's not about rejecting your capacity for force. It's about facing it, forging it, and learning when not to use it. Because real virtue is voluntary. It comes from the man who knows what he could do and chooses something higher. We started with a lie, that to be harmless is to be good. But the truth is far older and far harder. A weak man cannot be good because he has no choice. He avoids conflict not out of wisdom, but out of fear. He calls it peace, but it's really paralysis. Real peace begins the moment you realize you're capable of war. Real kindness begins the moment you confront the part of you that isn't kind. And real virtue begins the moment you stop trying to be safe and start learning how to be whole. That's what Hercules teaches us. Not how to win, not how to dominate, but how to walk through hell, dragging your shadow behind you until it learns to walk beside you instead. In the end, you don't have to be a monster, but you do have to know that you could be one. And if you never face that truth, you will never become strong enough to choose anything else. Thank you for watching, and best of luck on your path towards integration.